I don't think children are lazy. I think they're just waiting for a reason to care. One of the questions I'm asked all the time is, how do you motivate children? And my answer usually surprises people. I don't. Because motivation comes and goes, but purpose stays. Every year when I taught year 5 and 6, the very first activity wasn't English, it wasn't maths, it wasn't goal setting. It was one simple question. What kind of person do you want to become? Not what mark do you want, not what school do you want. What do you want to be? Is it a doctor, a teacher, a mechanic, a business owner, a builder, a parent, a leader? They would write their dreams down and I would keep those pieces of paper all year. Because whenever a child wanted to give up, I would bring them back to that dream. And I remember one of my year 5 students who wanted to become a mechanic. And he was incredibly capable. But every maths lesson was the same. Silly mistakes, lack of focus, excuses. It's too noisy, someone distracted me, I wasn't concentrating. And one day I sat beside him and I asked, what happens if one day you're fixing someone's brakes and you miss one tiny detail? What happens if a family gets into that car? And I remember he looked at me and he was completely silent. And I said, this isn't about maths anymore. This is about becoming the kind of person your future depends on. And the next day we had wet weather and I asked him to come back and do his maths. There was 60 children packed into a hall and there was noise everywhere. And I remember he sat beside me and he completed every question perfectly. And I smiled and I asked, do you realize what just happened? You just proved that you can focus whenever you choose to. His environment hadn't changed. If anything, it got worse. But his identity had. And that's something I wish every parent and teacher understood. Children rise to the vision we place before them. When we constantly remind them of who they're becoming, then their habits begin to follow. And I never believed I was just teaching year 5. I believed I was helping raise future doctors, future mechanics, future nurses, future teachers, future mums and dads, husbands and wives. Because the habits that shape our future aren't built when we're 30, they're built when we're 10. Every time a child chooses responsibility over excuses, every time they choose focus over distraction, every time they choose discipline over comfort. So when someone tells me a child is lazy, I always wonder, have we shown them a future exciting enough to work towards? Because I've learnt something after 14 years in education. Children don't need someone to constantly push them. They need someone who believes they can become extraordinary and reminds them of it until they believe it too.